Worship in the Middle of the Night by Rebecca Medina Stewart. Original music by Taylor Powell. About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the other prisoners were listening to them. Suddenly, there was such a violent earthquake that the foundations of the prison were shaken. At once, all the prison doors flew open, and everyone's chains came loose. Acts 16, verses 25 and 26. This passage is one of my favorites in the entire Bible. Paul and Silas were savagely beaten for preaching the gospel, then thrown into the innermost cell of a Roman prison. They were cold, bloody, and chained. They had every reason to drown in despair, but instead, they sang. Friend, they didn't lift their voices after the chains fell off or after a nice warm meal. They sang in the middle of their pain, uncertainty, and perhaps even fear. And it was in the midst of their praise that God unleashed a miracle. The ground shook and their chains came loose. Worship is powerful. I believe it grabs God's attention. It strengthens us, encourages us, and draws us near to His heart. But what if worship is one of the ways that God heals us in the trauma and not just after it? Years ago, my parents were going through a difficult divorce after 42 years of marriage. My family was imploding, and I felt as if my world was ending. I was working in TV news at the time, and after a late night live shot, I found myself on the highway, driving to be with my mother, who was inconsolable. There I was, somewhere along Florida's I-4, lamenting loudly and intensely. Grief poured from the deepest part of my belly. I cannot remember a time before or since when I wept in such a visceral way. Then, without thinking, I turned up the radio, which was tuned to a Christian station. I began to mouth the lyrics through my sobs. Slowly, my feeble attempt at singing grew louder and stronger, and in that moment, I sensed the presence of God all around me. I didn't know how or when, but something in my weary spirit assured me that my family would be okay. Jesus held me that night. He strengthened me so that I could be an anchor for my devastated mama. And something else happened. He began to heal my broken heart. God started addressing the fear and uncertainty that had wrapped itself around me like chains. What if your midnight song, offered through painful sobs, is powerful enough to shake the foundations of the prison you're in right now? Worship, beloved, not because you feel strong, but because God is strong. I believe worship in the midst of agonizing trial is a miracle in itself. At our worst, God shows us His best. And if we're paying attention, we'll see it. When I look back on that dark highway night, I remember a miracle, the presence of God rescuing me from the shackles of despair. If you're facing a painful divorce, the loss of a loved one, financial devastation, or any other deep sorrow, lift your voice. Look to the heavens, because that's where our help comes from.